Cop Chat. You've got questions for the police? They're here to give you the answers on WEFM 99.9.
The world has become such a cruel place. Something is wrong with the human race. Preacher man say it's wonders and signs. We are living in the end of times. Where is the love we once used to know? Where is the kindness we used to show? The heart of man is so full of hate. Let's make a change before it's too late. Too much killing, too much blood spilling. Each and every morning, it's weeping and mourning. We've got to stop all the crimes, erase the violence, let our voice be heard. We can't sit in silence. The hope of tomorrow is in our use today. We've got to live in love. Crime and violence don't pay.
And good morning, and we are back with you for another segment on our Activating Mornings program. But this time we are in our Cop Chat edition for today. But sitting before us, we have immigration officers. All right. So we are going to be talking on the topic of travel, entry, and compliance, what the public needs to know. And in studio, we have Mr. Kurt Noel, Miss Veronica Harry, and Mr. Sean Bratcher, and they're all senior immigration officers. Lady and gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are y'all doing?
You're doing
Good.
great.
We are good.
Sure?
Yes.
Ready for the exciting program?
Yes.
All right. So first, introduce yourselves, and maybe you could probably just let us know how long you've been an immigration officer and all that good stuff. Anything else that you may want for us to know?
Okay. First, my name is Scott Noel, senior immigration officer. 27 years service from the police, and about 17 years service in immigration.
Okay.
I am Veronica Harry, Senior Immigration Officer. I joined the constabulary in 1986. I went over to delinked over to immigration in 2007.
Okay.
So I am doing about 40 years in the service.
Okay.
And this is seniors mean seniors.
Yes. Yes, good morning. My name is Sean Bratcher. I will be doing 22 years in the immigration service this year. I've joined the police force in 2004 and we delinked in 2006.
Okay. Oh, so you all came from the police force?
We all came from the police force. We have police background.
Okay. All right. So let us know what's the role of an immigration officer and why are you needed? And maybe why did it separate though? Why did the crossover? Because I think you're separated from police, right? So do you know why there was a need for a separation or?
Well, the service was becoming more and more demanding, and the police usually for a police officer police transfer from different section to immigration or from another section. So the requirement or the brain drain when you move someone from one department to another one, and you feel the process starts all over again. So it was necessary for them to separate immigration that keeps these person in that space, right? So the knowledge and experience would maintain instead of being within having a brain drain.
Okay.
So that's probably why.
Okay. So what's the role of an immigration officer? Why
we
is immigration?
We
Okay.
facilitate cross-border movements of foreigners, national, non-nationals. We also protect the borders, right? So basically, our main focus is national security, right? While facilitating our movement of forces.
Okay. So when we come to the airport, should we be frightened of immigration
No,
officers?
I don't. If you have, you don't have.
We're the best you can meet. We're
Yes.
the first. We're the first
Mhm.
when you're coming in. We are the second when you're going out.
Mhm.
And we are the ones who make you the most comfortable.
Okay. So nothing
More,
at all.
more or less, immigration officers are there to make your travel hassle-free,
Okay.
while ensuring that everyone that travel are bona fide travelers.
And define for us what's a bona fide traveler then.
Someone who doesn't pose a threat to national security, someone whose documents are not fraudulent.
And are in adherence with the law.
Okay. All right. So let us know, like, what are some of the common mistakes that persons make when they are let's say coming into a country in the first instance.
You mean intentional or non-intentional?
Entering as a visitor while planning to work. A lot of people come into St. Vincent. The main intention is to work, but at the airport they would say to you that, or at the seaport, they would say to you that they're coming
Visit.
for a vacation.
Mm-hmm.
And then as time progresses, they are working.
Okay.
Two, you confuse a visa validity with their length of stay. Having a visa to come into St. Vincent is not giving you the amount of time that you should spend in the country as you would require. So there are countries that needs visa on entry, but when you come in, you're given the length of time to stay.
Also, some persons, whether traveling out of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and going to other countries as well, we see this a lot with Vincentians. You go to a foreign country and you do not have sufficient funds, and you might find yourself being sent back to St. Vincent and Grenadines. That also is an issue. Likewise, persons visiting St. Vincent and Grenadines who may not fall under the OECS or the CARICOM agreement, and they may come with insufficient funds. That poses an issue. They don't have accommodation. Oftentimes, we have to weed out these persons so that they don't become a charge on public funds. Right? A lot of people don't know that immigration do these things. Also, persons traveling with damaged or defaced documents. Right? That's another issue. We have to look at the document thoroughly, and if we're not satisfied that this person appears to be this person, we will have to deny that person entry as well. Persons not knowing where they're going to. Sometimes you might be at the immigration desk and you wonder why is the officer holding up the line so long? Sometimes there's a case where that particular passenger does not have the information readily available for where they're going to stay. So that is something also, that creates some issues.
Okay. So let's just backtrack a bit. Persons who are taking a chance to come to Vinci to work, but they're coming in on a visitor, or they're coming in as a visitor, right? If somebody, let's say, is prospecting in a sense, right? They got the time to come to stay here for 6 months because the duration is 6 months, right? Let's say they decided that they fall in love with Vinci and they want to stay. They found a job. What should they do in that instance? They initially came in as a visitor, but then they decide that they want to stay. What should they do in those cases?
So that person should, on the 2 days before the visa is expired, seek an extension. Or in the case where you're looking for work or may be working, they need to apply for residency and a work permit.
Okay. But let's say if I am considering looking for work here, should I declare that to you when I get to the airport, or just take my chance?
Yes, you should, so that you will be advised accordingly. Now, let's say, for example, you hear that there's a company that is open and you have certain skills that you're not sure, if you will be hired. So you come in for interview. You can let the immigration officer know that on arrival that, yes, I'm here basically as a visitor, but I'm going to apply for a job that I see is available at such and such. I don't know if I would get it, but I'm trying. And then we would advise you that, in the event that you apply for this job, you would need a work permit, and you would have to ask company to apply for a work permit, because if we catch you working, you'll be dealt according to law. Your entry visa clearly states employment prohibited, and it's there in the stamp that you receive in bold letters. Vincentian would not receive that stamp; they would not see that, right? But the visitor would see that stamp in the passport to say employment prohibited.
However, in respect of the OECS, their stamp is going to say to live and work, so they don't necessarily have to apply for a work permit. But the citizen privileges is not applicable to them. They would have to apply for citizenship because they won't be able to hold a passport.
Right.
So that's who's nationality. But in the OECS, the free movement, the full movement persons, they do not have to apply for a work permit.
Okay.
And they don't necessarily have to tell you that they're coming in for work, but for CARICOM and international countries, we advise that they do.
Question though, if someone comes into the country and they spend over 6 months and they did not travel back, what's happened?
Okay, unless that person does not declare themselves to an immigration officer, right? There are legal implications, because if immigration finds them and they did not declare, it's usually we prosecute them for that purpose.
So do the immigration go and look for the person?
We have a compliance section that does that necessary. The public would not know that, but we have a compliance section that does things behind the scene that nationals and visitors does not.
Okay. All right. So when I'm coming into the country, so I'm going back to a couple of things that Bradshaw raised. Not having sufficient funds. So I'm coming into the country. I'm coming as a visitor. Maybe I'm just one of those traveling persons, little means, etc. But what should persons actually present when they're coming to the country to state or to confirm that they do have sufficient funds for the duration of the visit that they say that they're going to be here for? What proof can they or should they be able to present?
Okay, what we look for usually their hotel accommodation, right? A booked hotel accommodation, not a pre-book. Usually pre-book are not being paid for, but get paid hotel accommodation. That's one. Well, hotel accommodation is a place of abode, or their sponsors. If their sponsors are willing to say they will support them to the duration of their stay, right? That's another necessity. I think that's basically it, right?
It's a give and take.
Yes.
So I had to open my purse and show you how much money I have.
It's a given situation, right? In that, for persons within the CARICOM and OECS, right? I won't say completely CARICOM, I would say, because CARICOM has another subsection. Right? So for persons on those islands and for persons from the OECS, those persons can basically show up at our borders with $1, say they're seeking employment, right? And they have a right to enter. Now, for persons outside of that, bracket, right? You have to be able to maintain yourself while you're here. You have to satisfy the immigration. There's an issue whether or not you have cash. Most persons travel with credit cards. So we would interview the person to see what they have. And it's also based on the country that you come from. If it's a well-off country, we're not discriminating, but we have to protect our country, and we have to protect our little finance that we have, because in the event that these persons can't make their way back home, we have to be the ones that have to repatriate persons. And some of these countries may be far off countries. So let's say we have someone from a far off country that requires an expensive ticket and stuff like that. We would ensure that person has sufficient funds. If they're not going to a hotel, they're going to someone, staying with someone, we would interview the person, find out how they know this person, how long they're going to be staying with them, if they would be willing to accommodate them for that period of time, right? So all the things we do to ensure that, we protect our borders properly.
So like when somebody's coming in, they should also provide not just the place, not just say they're going to Barley, but also the phone number for the person who they're going to be staying with, so that you can verify as well, right?
Yes, we would ask that question.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And I know we're talking a lot about the airport part of it, but what about persons coming in by sea? What happens in those instances?
It's the same.
It
Same.
doesn't change.
Okay.
Same.
Okay. All right.
The only difference is that at the airport, you go to the immigration officer, and at the seaport, the immigration officer go to you.
Okay.
You board the vessel, and you send back to the immigration officer.
Okay. What you tend to find are the most challenges that you find when persons, most at the airport, in terms of their interaction with immigration officers? Do you tend to find that persons are compliant, or they find you being a bit nosy?
I think the traveling public knows by now, when you enter a foreign state, that they're going to ask questions. So people already have the mindset, okay, we're going to be questioned on certain things, right? So the interaction is somewhat formal, and it's not really things. Only probably some passengers, maybe because of jet lag or the time they're traveling, maybe irate. But immigration are trained to diffuse certain situations when they see it becoming out of hand or overbearing, as you may put it in layman terms. But the interaction is somewhat formal, not really any. You only may find minor cases where you have probably loud or irate passengers sometimes, because that's what I mentioned before.
Okay.
But the process is somewhat normal.
Okay.
The immigration officers are actually supposed to make you feel comfortable, put you at ease. If they're seeing any jitters or what, through the conversation, through the interview, should make you feel comfortable and relaxed.
Curious question: do you also get training in customer service?
Yes, we do.
All the time.
Okay. Okay.
Customer service is an ongoing training for our department, right? In fact, I am of the view that we provide excellent customer service. We make the passengers feel comfortable while we extract the necessary information from them.
Okay.
Question, free movement, is that an automatic entry?
It does not. The free movement does not portray the way it sounds, because there are checks and balances, right? Within the free movement, you must have a valid passport, a valid document, government ID document, so you could travel free across the OECS or the full free movement initiative.
Okay, so it could be passport or ID card, right?
Passport, ID card. With the full free movement, it's passport only.
Okay.
Right, but for OECS,
It's
it's your passport and your government, any form of government ID.
Okay.
Some persons get a bit confused when they hear free movement, right? But we have different classes of free movement, because we have the OECS free movement, we have the CARICOM free movement, and we have the CARICOM full free movement, right? And while it's sort of similar, some areas is a little different. The CARICOM free movement, you are required to present a passport. You have a right to enter any of the member states. You will be given 6 months on arrival. For persons wishing to work, they will require a work permit. That's under the CARICOM free movement.
It's
Within-
skill certificate.
Right. Now, under the CARICOM free movement, there's also the class of persons who would deem as skilled nationals. Those are the ones that would have the CARICOM skill certificate. Those persons can enter providing that they have the skill certificate, and they can remain and work so long as they're the holder of a CARICOM skill certificate. Now,
Before the skill certificate must be also verified, right, before they start to work, right? So the ministry carries out that check, and once it's validated, then the person has the right to work, right?
And the free movement also does not exempt them from the national laws and the taxes and so forth. You know, it doesn't give you the right to citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not automatic
Right.
entry.
so
So there are still criteria that you have to, because we're not going to just take somebody who have a criminal record
Mm-hmm.
and you just give them entry even though it's free.
Right. I was curious about what do you do when somebody just shows up, because if they have that authority or permission in a sense, for the free movement, as most of, let's look at the OECS. Is like a background check done on individuals? I mean, not to get too much deep into how you do your job, but somebody shows up, how do we as Vincentians know who's coming into our country?
Okay, that's why I say there are checks and balances that are being carried out,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not just by us, but by our the sender state,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you have someone coming to with whether a criminal activities or other thing that probably may disturb hinder your sovereignty of your country, then we correct the necessary action. It's not, that's why I say free movement is not what it seems to imply, but there are also checks and balances that we have to carry out so that
They're inter-island connections.
these persons could travel. And Bracha mentioned bona fide travelers, but she gave an explanation.
Mm-hmm.
So all these are still carried out before the person is admitted. Once the person is admitted, they enjoy the benefits of the receiving states.
All right. Something crossed my mind. You would get I'm not sure what's the proper word for it. Manifest, I suppose.
okay, before flight arrives in
Right.
credits,
Uh-huh.
right? We get an advanced passenger information,
Okay.
and that is shared throughout the island. So we get that at least 15 minutes before the flight arrives here.
Mhm.
So we know who is coming, and I don't want to go in depth as to how our things are set up,
Mhm.
but the information is shared between islands. So in the event that a person, may not be who they say they are, or maybe, involved in certain
Mhm.
activities, that information will be shared with us, and it's up to us to do what is necessary.
Okay.
We work closely with the police at the airport as well. So one of the intentions to rest assured that the borders are well secure with our present immigration system.
Okay. And let's say I recognize somebody in my area, my community, with a different accent, and I might see them involved in criminal activities. Can I report that person to the immigration department?
Yes, of course. That's supposed to be a national thing because you don't want anyone coming into our lands and disturbing our peace. That's why I say our sovereignty still exists. It's necessary for persons when they see someone that they know, probably someone is new to the area, has a foreign accent, and they are not too sure, they could get in contact with the immigration department. We will do our investigation and we'll carry out our whatever action we have to carry out. So rest assured, the public should rest assured that there are people who does this, who calls in and informs, okay, there's someone in the neighborhood does not speak a foreign accent, we will mobilize our officers and we will look into the situation.
Okay. What about cases? I know we're talking about a lot about persons coming into our country, but what are some of the common mistakes that we see our Vincentians making when they go to other people's countries, in terms of when they're leaving?
Well,
Quite interesting question.
I mentioned one earlier,
Uh-huh.
right? Where persons you leave St. Vincent and Grenadines and you go to a host country and you don't have sufficient means to take care of yourself, right?
But I think how you explained it happens here for us sounds a little bit accommodated in a way, right? Because
Yes,
right.
yes.
Okay, so I see somebody calling, so we will get back to that after. All right. Oh, headphones.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I have a question. No, I'm born in, I'm a foreigner who enters
Some muffling.
Okay, caller, you may have to probably use a different device because we're not hearing you clearly. Caller, yeah, we're not hearing you clearly. It's coming through a little bit muffled. So if you can get your hand on a different device, and that'd be fine. Okay.
Okay, that's my it.
Okay. All right. All right. So okay. So Bradshaw, right? So when you explained it for persons coming to Vinci, when I asked if you have to open your purse and show how much money you have and that sort of thing, it sounded like we're a little bit accommodating, but I know overseas countries are not so accommodating. So, right.
Well, we have to balance the fact that we rely heavily on tourism. So, we have to try and facilitate persons, right? That does not mean we're going to throw national security out of the door. We do the necessary. We're not going to ask everyone to open the purse in front of the passengers and stuff like that. Their way of doing things discreetly, right? So when we say, ensure that you have sufficient funds, you understand? We're not necessarily going to ask to open your purse like that, right? With years of experience, we have ways of verifying that. You asked a question about persons going to other countries. Now, persons leaving St. Vincent and Grenadines has to understand the EC dollar is not accepted in all countries. And what we see, some persons, they go to a host country and they get denied simply because they may not have the currency for that country. And what we advise persons to do, seek information from your travel agency in terms of what currency the country that you're going to is using, and try and have sufficient means, sufficient funds to provide for yourself for the duration of the time that you're going to stay. You can't expect to say you're going to spend 3 weeks in the UK and you're only traveling with £100. That would not be sensible. Understand?
So what about persons who have cards?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. If you have a card, you have sufficient means.
Okay.
Right? But I use the figure as cash because most persons, but some persons, like you say, still travel without cards, they travel with cash. Right? And it's advisable when you're traveling, you have credit card, debit card, and you have at least sufficient cash still.
And y'all check like the expiration date on the cards?
For our end, incoming, yes.
Right, okay.
I was now going to mention it's I already have card, try work with some cash.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Because sometimes it's kind of immigration to go and check. It's sometimes you have your personal information that people do not want to see. But if you are requested to show probably a receipt or something on your balance that you have, they will probably might request that. So that's what we're saying is even if you have your card, try to work with at least a little bit of cash.
Okay.
Somebody on the WhatsApp is asking a question. What is the relationship between SVG Immigration Department and the Department of Custom Enforcement in the USA?
Customs enforcement in the USA.
We shouldn't say that we do not have a direct relationship. Immigration, we share information with other border agencies whenever necessary, and they share information whenever necessary. I won't say that we have a a day-to-day relationship, but the relationship at present within countries is that we share information when necessary.
Okay.
So there's not a direct relationship to say we work hand in hand on certain issues.
Okay.
I don't know if that would answer what the person is asking.
All right, we will see if they ask another question, follow-up question. But I think you were continuing on the point of some of the common mistakes that for Vincy's when they're traveling.
When they're traveling,
Right.
yes.
Mhm.
And well, sure enough, our Vincentians makes quite a few mistakes that we see them from time to time being sent back to St. Vincent and Grenadines. One of the issues I advise persons when they're traveling is to know the person that you're going to meet for your own safety. Do not meet persons online and decide, okay, I'm going to meet this person. Get to know that person. I'm not saying at this time and age where technology is out there where you can meet somebody online, but I can't expect you meeting somebody online this week and by next week, you're on a flight going to their country. So I would advise persons to be careful, be mindful of that.
There's also a language barrier
Mhm.
because a lot of our Vincentians, especially from the Leeward End, go up to Martinique and they cannot speak French.
Mm.
And then when they're caught, there's always a problem.
Okay.
Okay, another thing is that a place of abode where they're going to stay or sponsors, because most of the time you see, as Bradley says, see our citizens coming back home being denied entry because they do not know and they do not have the requisite information to give to immigration where they're staying or even who they're staying with. Nickname, we may have, every Vincent channel, I believe, have a nickname. And when you're traveling, you cannot choose a nickname to an immigration officer, right? You must give them the full name, address, and those things. So when they're traveling, make sure they have the person's full name, not a nickname, and their address, right?
And
a telephone number that the immigration could contact that person. Because most of the time you're coming back, you see they're going to visit Spraga. The immigration doesn't know who named Spraga. And when you ask them for the correct name, that's all then, right? So that's one of the mistakes they make when they travel.
And I suppose internationally as well too. Maybe in the Caribbean we could get with it, saying you're staying by Veronica Harry in Barley, right? But if you go overseas, you should actually provide like the street address, etc., the full details, because you can't just say right. Okay. All right, so the phone lines are open for persons to call. We'd be entertaining calls at this time. So the number to call is 457-9997. All right, for you to be interactive, if you have a question that you wish to pose to the office, the immigration officers. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you want to bring out before maybe ask other questions?
One of the issues that we encounter at the airport is not really with foreigners, but our returning nationals. I must put that on the table, right? Sometimes because we reach home, we kind of have a little hype. Like in Vincy,
more than everybody else.
Right, back in Vincy, and sometimes the way they treat the officers on arrival, it's not really becoming of a Vincentian. Because you reach home sometimes, I have to tell the public that the passport that you carry is the property of the government, right? Sometimes you're probably questioning them about even our national or Vincentian or who living overseas. You may ask them their address, probably overseas address. You're not living here.
We have
right?
a call on the line.
All right, so you get back to your points because this is interesting.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Pleasant good morning, Maka,
Morning.
Roleza, and your guests.
Morning.
Good morning.
Now, I think this interview you're having with the cop chat is very important for me today because I was just about to leave home to go to immigration department, and I hope these guys can answer my question. Now, I have a friend who's living in Trinidad. She actually lives in Vincent in 1981 on one of those old passport, I think the green passport. and she never, she returned to St. Vincent. She's now a citizen of Trinidad, a resident of Trinidad, and she's want to return to, she want a Vincentian passport. Now the question is, does she can't find the passport she traveled with in 1981. So the question is, does she have to report that that passport is lost, or she can just, because it was 1981, she can just reapply for a passport?
No, she must report that old passport, because the fact that she doesn't have it, there's a form,
Yes.
lost, stolen, damage report form that she needs to fill, and with a copy of her an ID, and that would go through a process of 2 months investigation
Very well.
for an approval, and then she can apply for the new passport.
I really, really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks. Thank you. All righty.
All right, somebody on the WhatsApp is asking, what are the countries for the free movement?
Okay.
Okay, we have the OECS free movement, and we have the CARICOM full free movement, right? A lot of persons didn't know that, still doesn't know that as of the 1st of October, 2025, that's last year, right? 4 countries within the CARICOM has started what is called the CARICOM full free movement, and that would be Belize, Barbados, Dominica, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Those 4 countries has the full free movement. That's where a person would have the right to enter, leave, re-enter, reside, work, and remain indefinitely in any of the 4 member states, right? There would be no need for a resident permit or a work permit. Also, you have the OECS free movement. And again, that those countries you can travel, freely. You can remain and reside. It does not exempt you from the national laws, right? It does not exempt you from traveling with a proper travel document. For the countries within the full free movement, Barbados and Belize require that you use a passport. Likewise, when you enter in St. Vincent and Grenadines, persons from Barbados and Belize, you would have to use a passport. For the OECS countries, you can use a government-issued picture ID. For example, your driver's license, your ID card, your voter's ID card. The question the caller is asking about the countries in the OECS free movement is Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, Grenada, St. Kitts, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and Grenadines, and Montserrat.
The person is asking, how much time can you stay?
Within these full free movement and OECS, it's indefinite.
It's indefinite. You can live, work, no issues.
And you can get the ID.
So long as you're a law-abiding citizen.
I think in the full free movement, I think after 3 days, you could apply for an ID.
You could apply for an ID.
You'd have to reside in the country 6 months. 6 months.
No, the full free movement.
Once you're Commonwealth national, you reside in a country 6 months. On that note, let me let the public know that for persons who would have entered St. Vincent and would have resided for a period of time exceeding 6 months and they acquired a Vincentian ID card, they're not permitted to travel on that ID card. Let me repeat that for the public, because that's an issue that we face at the airport. For persons who would have entered St. Vincent and Grenadines and resided for the past 6 months who are non-Vincentians, they're not permitted to travel on the Vincentian ID card. If you, let's say, would have acquired citizenship, whether you get married to a Vincent national or resided for X amount of years and you acquired citizenship, and the little section on the ID card that says nationality, it has Vincentian, then you can use that as a travel document within the OECS. But if you reside here, let's say from Trinidad, and you reside here for over a period of time, you acquire a national ID card, and the nationality would state Trinidadian, you cannot use that as a travel document.
Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. All right, so we see that we have a call. Dave, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Concerning this immigration situation, I want to know someone work in the immigration department. Are they required to speak more than one language? Hello?
Having, having been able to speak another language is a plus, but it is not a criteria.
Required?
It does not debar you from becoming an immigration officer, as long as you're very fluent in your English.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking of encountering other people at on the job who may not be able to.
Caller,
How about them coming and speaking
yes,
English?
if I may, right, caller, a few years ago that would have been an issue, but because of technology and Google Translate, it's no longer an issue for our department in terms of communicating with passengers.
And also if there is a language barrier, we also have people on call that we could call to interpret. So it's not really it's a problem. We live in an age of technology, so the airport has been running for quite a while, and this is an everyday occurrence, so there is no issue.
Good to hear. Good to hear. I was just concerned about that because I know you passed. That has created some problem. I've been a traveler at one time and hearing them have difficulty communicating at the immigration. Anyhow, thank you. That's all I want.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we have another call on the line. Hello, good morning. Okay. Hello, good morning. Hello.
Yes, good morning to Maka, Roleza, and your guests. Now, sir, you made a statement a little while ago which really made me smile, and my wife responded to it as well. I'm a Vincentian national, born Vincentian, living abroad, and whenever I come to St. Vincent, I'm faced with a problem at the immigration department. I have a Vincentian passport, the only travel document that I have. I do not have an attitude. I'm always cooperating with the authorities. Now, why am I being harassed? Honestly, I don't know. I'm not a troublemaker. At one point, Dad actually stopped, the form you fill out, your nationality. I had Vincentian, the officer crossed out Vincentian, and put a stamp on my passport, must not engage in gainful employment. I'm a Vincentian with a Vincentian passport without an attitude. Is it me personally, or is that a part of your system, I'm confused.
Caller, once your nationality, your place of birth in your foreign passport says Vincentian, you are a citizen of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. There is no segregation or whatsoever on the passport you're traveling on.
Sorry, I do not have a foreign passport. I have a Vincentian passport.
So it's highly unlikely that a visitor stamp would be placed in your passport. If the stamp that we place in your passport has no sort of condition inside it, that's a Vincentian passport.
But caller, how are you harassed?
By crossing out Vincentian nationality and telling me I have a limited time and I must not engage in gainful employment. Now, I have the evidence. Next time I come to St. Vincent, I could bring it and show it to you.
Yes, caller.
Yes,
we would appreciate that, caller. Also, if you have an issue with an officer when you're traveling, just ask to speak to the supervisor. Right? In the future, when you have an issue like that, ask to speak to the supervisor. And if you're still in St. Vincent at the moment, would advise that if you can if it's available, you can take it to the department. Let's get that sorted, because Vincentian passport should not have the stamp that you're describing, right? So we would really like to get to the bottom of that. Also,
okay, yes, I would love to meet with you next time I come in, because I've got a lot of other issues related to my visiting the country that gave me birth. which I will not discuss on radio because Roleza, let me leave it there.
Me laughing with you this
But
morning. Go ahead, Joshua.
I would love to meet. I would love to meet with you when I when next I visit St. Vincent.
All right. Thanks, Joshua. Okay. All righty. Mr. Noel, right?
Yes, was saying that nationals returning home, as I said, sometimes, as we say, yeah, we are home, we're good, but it does not mean you have the authority to disrespect or even go overboard with an immigration officer. It's a quite simple process, right? Sometimes we ask questions, right? How was your trip, such and such a case? Okay, and what is your address in St. Vincent? I think some passengers get upset with that. You just, oh, I'm a Vincentian, but for our record, we need your address. Okay. A lot of our foreign nationals usually comply, but they are minute fraction that usually give us a lot of problems. Okay, because for statistical reasons, we need the information. Okay.
We have a call on the line. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Hearing me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. Let's say I'm in the States. I have a child in America. And I want to say, I have to get, what passport I have?
Okay, let's start again. You said that you have a child in the States and you want to visit that child?
No, I am in the States.
Uh-huh.
And I have a child up there. So I need to come to St. Vincent, to St. Vincent. Which passport I have to use?
Okay, if I'm understanding what you're asking, right, is that I'm not hearing too clearly there. You're asking, you say, if you're a Vincentian and you're living in the States and you have a child that was born in the States and you want the child to come here to live, which passport should you use? If the child is born in the States, I'm thinking that the child would have only had an American passport. So the child would enter as an American, and you, the parent, would present your birth certificate, the child birth certificate, because the child now becomes a citizen by virtue of descent, right? So the child has an automatic entitlement to become a Vincentian national. So we offer two scenarios there. You can apply for a Vincentian passport automatically using your birth certificate and the child's birth certificate, so long as your name is on the child's birth certificate, you being the Vincentian parent. Also, we can put an endorsement in the child's passport to say that the child is a Vincentian national. So whenever he or she travels into St. Vincent and Grenadines, they will be treated as a Vincentian national.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's touch. Okay, Mr. Noel, we will get back to what you were speaking about in terms of some of the challenges that you meet. But another question just came to me in terms of traveling when it comes to minors. What should persons do? Let's say if a minor is to travel, and an unaccompanied minor, that is.
Okay. When you say
if I want from
right.
Okay, so if I random example, Maka and I have a child. Maka goes to live in Barbados, and I'm here in Vinci. But I want for that child to go to visit Maka in Barbados, but I'm not accompanying this child.
Right.
What
So
needs to be presented?
You have two scenarios there. One, you can have, if you have someone escorting the child, or two, the airline would be assisting you with that, right? Now, if you go through the airline, which is a bit easier, the airline would take care of that, where, the airline personnel would present the child to immigration with the necessary papers and everything, right? Now, if you're asking someone to escort the child, that person has to produce a notarized letter from the parent giving them permission to travel with the child. And that's something we take seriously at the airport, right? So rest assured, nobody is going to show up at the airport with someone's child and attempt to leave. Just as easy as that, right? They have to produce a notarized letter from either of the parents. For civil and grandees, we don't require both parents, any of the parents.
That's right, and that's the reason why I was asking. Reason I was going to ask as well, because shouldn't it be both parents to prove, maybe let's say a case of kidnapping isn't going to occur, etc. Shouldn't both parents? Maka sends a notarized letter to say that he has given permission for his child to come over, as well as me saying that I have given permission for my child to go over. Shouldn't both parents be involved in that process?
I may agree with you, but I may disagree with you at the same time.
Okay.
Right? No, sometimes we have a lot of single parents, and it may prove some difficulty where one parent not communicate with the other one, the child lives with one. So we have to be flexible at times. Again, it's not cast in stone. There are situations where we may ask both parents. We're trained to detect certain things, and if we are uneasy about something, we may press forward for certain information. If we're satisfied, most of the times, everything seems bona fide, we accept the one letter, provided that it's notarized. That's why we ask for a notarized letter, right? So the person notarizing that has to know, well, okay, I'm notarizing this thing because I know this parent, right? And I know that, he or she doesn't have any issues or any legal issues pertaining to the child's custody before I sign this notarized letter. That's why we accept a notarized letter from one parent. So we're expecting that the person notarizing that letter is, being professional.
Okay, sometimes you see these letters coming with a birth certificate, and sometimes one of those names will be missing. You go to the father,
right?
So if young Maka has that child and his name is not on the birth certificate, where does the consent comes in? Okay, so unless he has something that says either a paternity test to say that he's the child's father, or something from the code that says that, or if his name is not on the birth certificate, it will pose a challenge for him to say that his child, he's authorizing for his child to come. Immigration doesn't knows that.
Okay.
Right. So it could be of that is another scenario as well.
Okay, fair point. All right.
While you're speaking about child, a thought now popped into my head that I just want to remind the traveling public that when they're applying for visas, it's an issue that affects us a lot at the airport. When you go to the U.S. Embassy in Barbados for your visa for you and your kids, most times the parents would have their driver's license or their ID card to return to St. Vincent and Grenadines, and then they're stranded with the kids in Barbados without any form of a travel document to return because they would have left the passport with the embassy, right? That becomes an issue because you're then stranded in Barbados. What we're advising the public, we have done so in the past, but I just want to use the opportunity to remind persons that we offer an emergency certificate. It costs $35. You can apply for that a week before, or 2 to 3 days even before you decide to leave to go to Barbados for the visa. I want persons to please make note of that and utilize the service, because oftentimes we see persons being stranded in Barbados. Some persons have the notion that they can return home on the birth certificate. The birth certificate is not a travel document.
Or a copy of the passport. It's not a travel document.
Okay. All right. Mr. Noel, I don't know if you want to just finish and then we would wrap up for this morning.
Okay, as I was saying, immigration officers are not stiff-handed. As I said before, we are looking for certain information for statistical reasons, and I'd like to advise the traveling public, especially Vincentians returning home or Vincentians living overseas, right? We need these statistics for most time our tourism purpose, okay, so that we could understand how much Vincentians we have living overseas or returning home. and immigration is tasked with asking certain questions. So it is not really a violation, but it's for statistical purpose. And even asking a question, it's basically the criteria in law that immigration asks. It does not omit a Vincentian from not giving his address. It's the law states across the board, right? So I would like Vincentian to cooperate with the immigration, especially our nationals returning home or nationals living overseas.
Okay. There's a question here on the live. Let me see if I. Okay. The person is asking if a Vincentian becomes a citizen of another country like Canada, is there any restriction pertaining to that individual?
On returning home?
Yes, or
None. There's none.
No
none.
restriction
The
whatsoever.
person is still a Vincentian.
Yes,
They were
exactly.
born in the Senegambia. They will always be a Vincentian. Unless there's a case where that person has renounced their citizenship. We see that in rare cases, but there are instances where for certain countries, you want to acquire citizenship in that country, they require that you renounce citizenship of your country in order to acquire that.
And if they traveled on a Canadian passport instead, they use the Canadian passport instead.
It's not an issue. They were born in St. Vincent and Grenadines. Our record will show that the passport from Canada will show place of birth in St. Vincent and Grenadines.
Okay.
I think this is going to be our final caller. Hello, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Morning.
To everybody on the panel.
Morning.
Now, I had to come and identify a friend of mine who was applying for a passport. Well, I shouldn't say applying, renewing. He was living overseas for a good number of years. I went in, I told the immigration officer in what capacity I knew the guy. And after giving the information, I was told that I can't identify. So my question is, if someone is coming in to do such, that is to identify someone who is renewing a pass, what sort of information does they have to give to the officers?
Caller, it depends on the person who you're giving the information for. There's an interview conducted and you're looking for certain information to identify that person would have been out of the state for how so long.
So that's my question. What sort of information?
Or is it? I guess it might be on a case by case basis.
Okay, I think I understand what the caller is getting at, right? If I may, caller, the scenario that you're given is that the person would have been out of the country for X number of days, whether 20-something years, they're out of probably, not quite out of our system, but because of the number of years, anything could have been done using that person's identity. So we have to make certain checks, and we will take certain information from you if the person refer you as a person of reference or someone who know them. The information that we take from you, we cross it with the information that we take from the person. We would do a report on it to see, if what you say about the person, what the person say checks out. And then we would deem it fit for you to identify this person, if that's what exactly you're asking. Now, let's say you know John Brown for the past 15 years, but John Brown left St. Vincent and the Grenadines for the past 20 years. How do you know him? Because in his statement, he's saying he left there 20 years ago, but you're saying 15. So if you understand what I'm saying there, it doesn't check out.
Well, actually, no. Because I told the immigration officer in what capacity I know the person, how long I have known the person, is somebody who I'm always in contact with. But they were asking me certain questions.
Caller, yeah.
Such as, hold on.
Interject.
Sorry?
No, go ahead.
I was saying, listen, one of the questions they were asking me. How many children the guy mother has? I'm like, how does that help to identify this guy? You asking me to identify the mother?
I think it's more to know the ex. Well, okay, I probably am going to reason it differently, but let me allow y'all to answer. Yeah.
In that case, the information we are trying to ascertain is about the applicant and the applicant's relations. So it is important that we ask you if you know if the applicant's mother have more children and how much children. We might need to get in touch with those children also to have an interview with them.
But then that is not my, I don't understand how that becomes relevant
Because
to
if
me.
you know the person, caller, if you know the person to that extent that you can say that is Maka, then you should know a lot of things that surrounds Maka.
Disagree with that point.
Okay, all right. So
hold on. I told you the specific question they're asking me. How many children does his mother have? How does that relate to the individual that you want asking me? I couldn't know you, my friend, and I don't know nothing about you.
Carla, it's usually when an investigation is carried out and persons who are out of state for a period of time, usually the investigation starts with the applicant, and is what the applicant gives to the immigration officer is what the immigration officer will use to question the persons who are supposed to come and identify him. So if the applicant says that you know him, hold on, Carla. If the applicant says that you know him and you know his entire families, whatever the case, the immigration officer probably will act upon that, right? And if you are saying that you're asking about his family, it could be a possibility that the applicant told immigration, you know, his entire family, you know, from A to Z. No, I'm just saying.
Categorically, no.
I'm just saying, because you would not know what questions or what answer the immigration officer got from the applicant. So we base our questions from what the applicant told us.
All right, caller, your situation. Okay, caller. Okay. So your situation sounds like something that you need to have a direct conversation with one of the officers. And we're not going to be able to facilitate it on this program. Okay?
Hello. Could I just say a final word?
Yes, your final word.
I was allowed to, after the immigration officer changed, the person who was interviewing me the first time, they actually called me in and say, come and do this.
All right.
So I'm only trying to show you guys there's a lot of inconsistencies in what happens there at the immigration department. Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Go ahead,
I sort of understand where the caller was coming from, but the caller needs to understand also that an investigation is being done. Now, you have, let's say, a person who's probably been out of the country for 20-something odd years, returns to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, doesn't have an ID card, doesn't have any proper form of identification. They have to wait 6 months before they can get a national ID card, and they attempt to apply for a passport. The immigration department would not just grant you a passport because you have a birth certificate. Yes, you have an entitlement as a national, but the immigration department has to safeguard its integrity, and we have to ensure that the passport that we're handing to, let's say, John Brown, is indeed and in fact John Brown. There are situations where persons may try to apply for siblings, documenting siblings' name and stuff like that. We can't go into that, but the immigration department has to ensure that that does not happen. And some persons may not understand, some of the questions that we may ask in terms of, how you know this person. I guess what they call it is probably annoyed that they would have done an interview and then they call him back in for another interview. Probably based on the information they would have got from the first interview, they did not check out with what the applicant had presented. and they probably interview another person, and then based on that information, they call back this person to tie the information, because sometimes you have to tie certain things. There are cases where persons, all the years they go by the name of a play name, and most persons only know them as that play name. And even your cousin grew up knowing you as a certain name, and it's not the name on your birth certificate. You understand? They may give a statement to say, yes, I know Helen for all my life, but Helen actually is just her nickname. Helen name might be Cassandra. You understand? And Helen was a play name. So again, we may take a statement from a person during an interview, and may have to call back that person again. It's not that we don't know what we're doing. We know what we're doing, right? But sometimes there's always a right way to do things. We have to more or less build a case before we can in these situations, because a person out of the country for the past 20 something years, no form of identification, just shows up and you give them a passport. You understand that wouldn't seem right like that.
And if you did it that way, then person's going to say you're not doing your job properly.
Exactly. So you understand, we have to cross our T's and dot our I's properly.
It must be due diligence. It must.
You see,
calls for that.
The weight of a passport is very heavy. You understand, the weight of a passport. And people don't realize that. Yes, you apply for a passport. Yes, but the process that goes into printing of a passport is a tedious process. We have to ensure that each person who has a passport, you understand, is indeed that person.
Okay. All right. So we are well over time, but that's not a bad thing. But what we're going to do is allow each of you about a minute or so to give your final thoughts, or if there's anything that you think that is pertinent that you need to bring out at this time.
Okay. Final third. Immigration plays a role between tourism and security, right? It's a thin line. Okay, facilitating travelers while maintain our security to safeguard our national. And it's a very tedious work. We are basically the police for our country, especially on Parsons communist side. Persons don't realize that immigration officers literally carry the same powers as a police officer, but in regards to foreign nationals, right? One of the only, one of several entities that probably could operate without a search warrant or whatever, right? So it's our job is very tedious. Sometimes we need the public's assistance, and people don't realize that seeing an immigration officer doesn't mean that person is facilitating this facility. It goes beyond that. We have a lot of things that we have to do. We have to do checks and balances, maintain our tourism integrity as well as our national security. And that is what immigration is about, right?
Okay.
Immigration wants the public to understand that this is a lawful movement that benefits everyone. Following the rules for entry, stay, and work ensures personal safety, protects national security, and supports regional cooperation. Travelers should always check their visa, work, and stay conditions to avoid unintentional breaches. By being honest, prepared, and cooperative with immigration, people help create a safe, efficient, and a fair system for all.
Okay.
All right, just let the public know that immigration is here to protect our borders, first and foremost, while providing excellent customer service. We are a tourism island, and we want to welcome everyone to our country, but we also want everyone entering our country to obey our laws. And, at the end of the day, everybody would be happy.
Okay. All righty, so that concludes our COP chat for today. We were talking on the topic of travel, entry, and compliance, what the public needs to know. And we interviewed Mr. Kurt Noel, Miss Veronica Harry, and Mr. Sean Bradshaw, all senior, and by senior, we really mean senior immigration officers. All right, so we thank you very much for being here with us this morning. It was quite informative, so I'm hoping that from the discussion, that persons have taken away at least something that they didn't know before. I know that I certainly have. So thank you very much for that. And we look forward to you being back on the program on another occasion. All right.
Thank you
very much.
You're
Thank you for
welcome.
having us.